enable the public to address an action item on the board agenda. The second reception of visitors will be after the board is active. It's intended to allow the public to address the board on any issue it chooses to bring to the board which is relevant to the school district business. However, before we begin our first reception of visitors, I believe Dr. McDonald and I want to make a few remarks. I want to remind our citizens and our board that we must, despite differences of opinion and style, remember that we were elected to support our students, our staff, and our community by providing the best education with the best resources our taxpayers can afford. Our record is outstanding. We have record high test scores, we have wonderful facilities, we have a balanced budget, which we'll hear about later, and we have a great staff. We have so much to be proud of. That's what this board is about. We need to remember that we share many more values than our recent issues may indicate. Every one of our board has the best interest of our students and staff at heart. Let us not let our differences overshadow those values. Having said that, we do wish to address several issues that did emerge at the July 20th meeting. Dr. McDonald, would you please discuss the first issue?
Thank you, Mrs. Beckman. I want to begin by emphatically stating that at one time in the 7 years that I worked for District 99, including 5 years as principal in South High, and now starting the second year as superintendent, have I ever been pressured by a board member to give any special favors to themselves or their children? With regard to the allegation that favoritism may have been shown in the selection of 2007 graduation speaker at South High, I would say that it's simply not true. Since I worked in District 99, the South High graduation speaker is chosen from among the top 2% of the class. Potential speakers submit speeches to a faculty committee. The speeches are submitted without names, so the faculty committee can select solely on the content of the words at hand. The committee reads all the submitted speeches and recommends the best speech to the associate principal, then identifies the author and names the speaker. That was a process used in 2009, and that was a process used in 2007. I'd be glad to answer any questions about the selection of the 2007 graduation speaker at the conclusion of the program, as will Mr. Schwartz, who is going to arrive shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. McDonald. Second issue I want to address is that at that meeting it was implied that political organizations are allowed special treatment in renting time at this building because specific board members are members of that political party. That is flatly not true. In fact, at the time the board changed the fee structure and increased fees for all groups a few years ago, the two board members disclosed their relationship with that group, which rents space according to the same guidelines that affect any other group in our community not directly affiliated with the schools. Citizens have requested records of these rentals via FOIA requests in the past, and they have found no evidence of special treatment afforded the political groups in question. I am certain there is none. In light of the events at July 20th meeting during the reception of visitors, I am compelled, however, to address the audience about the purpose and process of the reception of visitors. First, our reception of visitors is an opportunity for the public to address the board, to bring information to the board, or to criticize the board and or the administration in a limited forum. Reception of visitors is not a forum for the board or individual board members to engage in dialogue with or even answer questions posed by citizens. Our responsibility is to listen to comments, but not to respond on the spot to them. Second, as elected officials, board members expect to hear criticism from citizens who don't agree with us. Happens all the time. Our policies encourage public comment that is civil, and ask citizens to refrain from personal derogatory remarks directed at individuals. In fact, our attorney, who will be with us shortly, has advised us that we may caution speakers that they risk defamation and invasion of privacy claims if they present confidential or inaccurate information about students or other individuals, including students and employees who may be related to board members. In addition, please let me emphasize that presenting confidential or personally derogatory information during public comment may harm the ability of the board, and that's important to know, and the administration to provide a workable solution to whatever your issue is. It's brought up prematurely in a public session. It really could get in the way of a really good solution to the problem. If you have a pressing confidential matter, however, we do want to hear about it. You should begin by speaking to the appropriate administrator. You may also request a closed session with the board or a private meeting with the board president and the superintendent. Last, the board has the authority to put a time limit on an individual's public comment during reception of visitors. Our longstanding policy limits that time to 3 minutes per speaker. As president of the board, I have the authority to enforce that time limit. If it appears a speaker is approaching it, I will ask the person to conclude his remarks. If a speaker continues beyond the time limit without a sign of finishing his or her remarks, I will ask the speaker to end and relinquish the floor. In general, appropriate steps will be taken to prevent disruption to the progress of our meeting. For example, in the event a person refuses to relinquish the floor, I will call for a recess in the meeting until the speaker does relinquish the floor. Following the recess, I will recognize others who wish to address the board, and there may be many tonight, I don't know. Thank you for your patience in listening to our remarks. We really do, we do want a civilized meeting. We want to listen to people, but we want you to respect our position as a board. Now, having said all that, is there anyone that wants to address the board on our action item, which is adopting the budget? Yes, sir. Could you please identify yourself at the microphone?
My name is John Schofield. I live at 1125 Jefferson Avenue, and mine is a process comment about the materials that will be available on the web with respect to that matter that you were describing.
Okay, the budget.
The materials on the website which are available to residents appear to have been prepared on a computer and printed out and then re-scanned in to make the files that are put on the web, which means that a resident cannot look through them, browsing for any particular characters or words. They can't cut and paste any material out of them. They can't take the numbers and put them in a spreadsheet. Essentially, their hands are tied behind their back. All they can do is look at the screen image, which is actually a graphic. It's not even a text document. And I would ask that the technology is readily available, as evidenced by other governmental bodies in this jurisdiction doing it regularly, that the board make these things available in machine-readable form, not in scanned image form. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board on the budget? All right. We'll move on then to the informational reports. We have a summer construction update.
Mr. Scheck, Marty Schock is going to brief the board on a number of small construction projects going on at the buildings, and I think he has altogether good